My spiritual brothers and sisters know my voice, even when I am speaking through one of their brothers. I am indeed your Jesus, and when I walked the earth, I made a promise that applies to every human being on this planet: I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. I am Jesus Christ. I am offering these teachings because I desire you to know that I have kept that promise and that I intend to keep it in the future. I have been with you always, I am with you now, and I will be with you always. You might wonder why you do not realize or experience that I am with you. The reason is that you have allowed yourself to create a sense of separation from me. If you will read and absorb these teachings, you might realize that the sense of separation exists only in your own mind. I am an unlimited cosmic being, and there are no barriers I cannot cross. Only one thing can separate me from you, and that is your decision to see yourself as separated from me. I understand that you are concerned about the authenticity of this work. How is it possible that I, the real Jesus Christ, can speak to you through a book? I am asking you to please consider the situation from my perspective. I know that the human mind is able to question and doubt absolutely anything. Therefore, how could I possibly give you an outer proof of the authenticity of this book? I think an objective evaluation would show you that nothing I could possibly say would constitute such a proof. However, I do not need to give you an outer proof because you have the ability to find an inner proof. Science has told you that everything in this universe is made of energy. Energy is vibration. Your physical senses are simply instruments that are designed to detect vibrations in the material world. You also have an inner sense which you can use to detect vibrations that are beyond the material world. The living truth that I bring, the living truth that I am, is a form of spiritual energy or vibration. If you will silence your analytical mind and go deeply within your heart, you can activate the inner sense that allows you to detect the vibration of spiritual light, spiritual energy. Through this inner sense, you can feel the vibration of the words I am speaking to you through this book. Through your inner sense, you can know that it is, indeed, my voice. You can know that I am the real Jesus Christ and that I am here to call my own. As you continue to read this book, use your inner sense of the heart. Read this book with your mind, but absorb it with your heart. Your heart will tell you the truth, the living truth that I am. Our Father has given you free will. He has made it a law in heaven that no one is allowed to violate the free will of a human being. I love my Father, I respect his will, and I respect your will. I love you, and I desire you to experience the fullness of my love for you. Yet if you choose to reject me, to reject my love, then I must simply wait until you make a better decision. However, I do not have to wait in silence. I have the option of speaking through those who have chosen not to reject me. I am the open door, which no human can shut. No human being can turn off the still small voice that speaks in the heart. No one can completely silence my voice. Therefore, if someone decides to listen to his or her inner voice and to acknowledge where that voice comes from, I can speak through that person and describe another facet of the unlimited being of God. That is how this book was brought into the material universe. Some people choose to ignore the inner voice, to deny that voice, or to make themselves so busy with the things of this world that they have no attention left over me. Some people have ignored their inner voice for so long that they think they can no longer hear me. Therefore, I must speak to these people through an outer voice that they can hear and read. As you will see later, this is not the way I desire it to be. I want to speak to you directly in your heart, and I want you to be able to hear my voice. I want to have a direct, personal communion with you that no human being or institution can limit or distort. Therefore, you must not allow these teachings to replace your inner voice. You must use this book only as an inspiration, not a doctrine. You must let these teachings help you realize that by tuning into your inner voice, You can hear me directly. So many people have allowed themselves to believe that they cannot know or experience me directly, that they must go through some outer organization or doctrine. I am not here to condemn or find fault with any organization or doctrine. Yet I must point out to you that you have the ability to commune with me in your heart. An outer organization or teaching has one purpose and one purpose only, namely to help you rise to a level of consciousness where you can commune directly with me, your Jesus. If the organization fulfills that purpose, all is well. If it does not, then it has shut me out, and therefore it can have no part with me. Human beings have fallen into a lower state of consciousness, and they need help to get back on their spiritual feet. A person who has fallen and broken a leg might need a set of crutches to learn how to walk again. Before you have learned to walk on your own, you can gain great help and support from using crutches. Yet when you have grown strong and learned to hold your balance, you must decide to take that first step without the crutches. If you insist on holding on to the crutches, you will limit your ability to walk in the light of my presence. There is a way that seems right unto a human, but the ends thereof are the ways of death. The false way is the belief that you can reach me only through someone or something outside yourself. There is also a straight and narrow way that leads to eternal life. The true way is an inner walk with me. These teachings are not the way. They are meant to point you towards the inner path of the heart. Open your mind and heart to me, and I will show you the true path. Follow that path, and you will make it back home to our Father's kingdom, where I am waiting for you with open arms and a heart that overflows with a very personal love for you. So many people think that salvation is a process over which they have little or no influence. They think it can happen only through grace or some kind of miracle. I am not saying that salvation does not involve grace. Yet you must understand that, because of the law of free will, no human being can be saved against his or her will. If you are to be saved, you must decide that you are willing to be saved. You must decide that you are worthy to be saved. Neither God nor I can, or will, make that decision for you. However, I can attempt to inspire you to make that decision, and that is precisely why I am bringing forth these teachings. William Shakespeare wrote a timeless play about the Prince of Denmark. Hamlet's most famous remark is, "To be, or not to be, that is the question." The inner meaning of that question is that you must choose whether to be who you are or not to be who you are. I hope you will absorb the following teachings and allow them to help you discover who you truly are. I also hope that in the end you will choose more wisely than Prince Hamlet. After all, what is the death of a fictional prince compared to the death of a real being? Many people have read the statement in Scripture that human beings were created in the image and likeness of God. Few people have the courage to consider what this statement truly means. The barrier to a deeper understanding of this statement is that people tend to reason backwards. They have become self-centered instead of God-centered. They imagine that if God created them in His image, then God must be like the human beings they presently know. Most people fail to realize that this is not so. You were originally created in the image and likeness of God, but you are not presently expressing that image. You have, by using your free will in a way that was not intended by God, created a human being that is different from the spiritual being that God created. What does it truly mean that you were originally created in the image and likeness of God? God is the creator. To create, you must have two qualities. One, you must have the ability to envision or imagine what you can create. You must be able to imagine your options. Two, you must have the ability to choose which one of the options you want to manifest. God creates by taking His own formless being and giving it form. God can envision many different forms, but, to create anything, God must choose one particular option. God can create a universe in which planets are flat, and God can create a universe in which planets are round. However, even God cannot create a universe in which planets are flat and round at the time, because one form excludes the other. When God created you in His image and likeness, He gave you His own qualities. He gave you imagination and free will. After endowing you with these qualities, God sent you into this particular universe as an extension of Himself/herself. It is extremely important for you to understand that you are not sent here against your free will. You are here because you chose to come here. You are here because your life stream desired to be a part of God's creation and to express the qualities of God here on this planet. Unfortunately, many people have forgotten that original desire, that original decision, of their life streams. That loss of memory is the only real problem on planet Earth. If you want to escape the prison represented by the limitations of this world, then you must restore your original memory of who you are. When you regain that memory, you must decide to express your true identity. However, you cannot express something that you do not know, because no one, not God and not a son or daughter of God, can create that which they cannot envision. I am spiritual teacher, and I have chosen to remain with this planet out of love for you and your brothers and sisters in spirit. It is my deepest desire to see you recognize the fullness of who you are as a spiritual being instead of the limited, mortal being that you currently think you are. How can I possibly help you escape the limited, mortal state of consciousness that is presently entrapping your mind? I must somehow inspire you to look beyond that state of consciousness. Perhaps it might help you to understand why you find yourself in that state of consciousness. Let us consider how a spiritual being, created in the image and likeness of God, could possibly descend into the state of consciousness that is currently dominating life on planet Earth. To understand this mystery of mysteries, you need only recognize that God gave you imagination and free will, and that God did not limit His gifts. God gave you the ability to imagine anything, even things that are different from or in opposition to God's original vision for this universe. God also gave you the ability to choose to believe and create anything you want, even things that are different from or in opposition to God's original vision or will for this universe. In other words, God gave you the ability to create your own reality, even a reality that is different from what God originally envisioned for you. Many devoutly religious people, be they Christians or non-Christians, look at the atrocities happening all over this planet and find it difficult to understand how God could possibly have created a world like the one they live in. Yet because they are afraid to look beyond a particular outer doctrine, their only option is to reason that God must have willed it so. Some people accept the will of God while others reject God and anything related to God. My beloved hearts, both of these reactions are based on an incomplete understanding of reality. This is another example of human beings using their present state of consciousness to reason backwards and thereby project human qualities upon God. I am an unlimited cosmic being. I reside in my Father's kingdom. I know my Father and I know His original vision for this creation. God did not desire to have you experience a life dominated by misery, limitations, and suffering. When God created planet Earth, God envisioned a perfect planet on which life streams could grow in understanding of their individuality and in which they could express their creative abilities without limiting themselves or harming others. Yet you must understand that God respects His own laws. He gave you unlimited imagination and unlimited free will. You have the capacity to imagine that which is limited, that which is not based on love, even that which is dark or evil. You have the ability to choose to focus your attention on imperfection. Yet it is a law of God that you will create what you allow your attention to dwell upon. If you focus your attention on imperfect forms, then you will inevitably begin to create those imperfect forms. The reason being that you create through the power of your imagination and attention. When God created universe, The first act of creation was the statement, "Let there be light." Light is the basic substance from which everything in this universe is created. God's light is like a lump of clay. God creates by shaping the formless clay into particular form. God creates by envisioning a particular image and then allowing His light to flow into that image until the light manifests as a material form. You are created in the image and likeness of God. You do not yet have the full creative abilities of God, yet you create the same way God does. You create by allowing your attention to focus on a particular image. God's light is constantly flowing through your consciousness. God's light obediently takes on the form of whatever image your mind is focused upon. If you hold your attention on a particular form for a sufficient period of time, you will manifest that form in your outer world. Hold your image on mortality, limitation, and suffering, and you will experience those things in your life. Hold your attention on any imperfect image, and you will manifest imperfection in your life. The dilemma expressed by Hamlet is meant to illustrate the basic fact that you can never stop creating. Hamlet did not want to act, yet by not acting, he brought about his own death. In their present state of consciousness, many people do not want to create. Yet whether you create consciously or unconsciously, you are still creating. God gave you free will, and you cannot turn off that gift. You cannot stop making choices. If you ignore or deny your ability to create perfection, you are still making a choice. Therefore, choose life. Choose the perfection of God over the imperfection of the lower consciousness. You cannot stop creating, but you can choose what you create. The basic fact about life on planet Earth is that God has not created evil and God has not created imperfection, limitations, and suffering. These things were created by human beings. These things manifested in the material world because human beings made the choice to focus their attention on imperfection. For many people this statement might seem brutal, but it seems so only to those who are not willing to take responsibility for their own lives. Throughout history, so many people have desired to blame someone else for their misery. So many people seek to blame other people, be it their parents or the leaders of society, for their situation. The tendency to blame others for your personal situation is simply an attempt to escape personal responsibility and accountability. It is an attempt to justify an unwillingness to change your attitude towards, and your understanding of, life. What is the ultimate escape from accountability? It is to place blame upon someone that you believe to be beyond your influence. It is to blame an authority figure that you believe is far above yourself. If the authority figure has created your present situation, and if you have no influence over that authority figure, then you cannot possibly have any personal responsibility for your situation. Can you? So what is the ultimate authority figure upon which human beings can place blame? It is, naturally, God Himself. If God was the one who created your misery, then you have no personal accountability and there is nothing you can personally do to change the situation. Therefore, you do not have to change your beliefs or your attitude towards life. You can simply continue to live in the illusion that there is nothing you could possibly do to change yourself, your personal situation or your world. So many people prefer to think that God has created their misery. They do not want to admit that their situation is self-created and that only they uncreate it. They do not want to admit this because they do not want to change themselves. It is a fundamental law that you cannot change your world without changing yourself. If you are serious about improving your outer situation, you must begin by changing your inner situation. You must change your understanding of life, your beliefs about life and your attitude towards life. It is my sincere and loving hope that these teachings will inspire you to go through that personal transformation. If you will allow me to help you, it will be my supreme joy to do so. However, I can help you only if you are willing to let go of ideas and beliefs that are out of touch with reality. I am fully aware that some people have accepted an image of me that will cause them to feel that the real Jesus could not possibly be this direct and outspoken. They have accepted a touchy-feely image of me that has little to do with the real Jesus. I have several comments on this false image. Over 2,000 years ago, I gave my life to bring forth the same teachings that I have just given you. Those teachings have systematically been distorted and destroyed. If even a small number of people had heeded my original teachings, this planet would have been a very different place today. After having waited for 2,000 years, I simply don't have time for niceties. I don't have time to beat around the bush. This is the time to face reality, and therefore I must give people the truth about their situation. I am indeed a master of love. I have mastered all qualities of love, even tough love. Would it be truly loving to allow people to remain in ignorance and thereby lose their souls? I think not. I might remind you that 2,000 years ago I said, I came not to bring peace, but a sword. The sword that I came to bring back then, and that I come to bring again today, is the sword of truth which cleaves the real from the unreal. The ultimate lie found on this planet is the belief that human beings have not created their own situation. The ultimate truth is that the limiting conditions found on this planet are entirely the creation of human beings. Therefore, the only way that circumstances could possibly improve is by human beings taking responsibility for their own actions and deciding that they will begin to create perfection instead of continuing to create imperfection. God never desired to see the misery and suffering found on this planet. God does not desire to see the present conditions continue indefinitely. God desires to see drastic and positive change on this planet. Yet God has given you and everyone else free will. And therefore God cannot bring positive change unless you decide that you are willing to be the instrument for bringing about that change by focusing your attention on God's perfection instead of continuing to focus your attention on human imperfection. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot serve God and Mammon. You cannot serve God and the prince of this world. God is perfection and nothing but perfection. Nothing imperfect ever originated from God. Therefore, the current state of imperfection on earth did not originate from God. God did not create your misery, and therefore you cannot expect that God will somehow whisk it away through some miracle or a mysterious thing called grace. Your personal misery, and all of the imperfections found on this planet, can be removed only by those who created it. It can be removed only when you, and a critical mass of other people, decide to take their attention off imperfection and put it on the perfection of God. How can you focus on the perfection of God? You must ascend to a level of consciousness higher than the relative, mortal, limited, carnal state of consciousness into which most people have allowed themselves to descend. I am here to call you up higher. The message I am giving today is that you and most other people have not heeded my original message. This is largely due to the fact that my original message was never made available to the general population. Yet times have changed, and my original message can no longer remain hidden. If you were to ask me what I find most amazing about human beings, I would have to say that it is their ability to accept a completely false idea and to believe that it represents an infallible truth. Human beings have an ability to believe the unbelievable that surprises even God. As for me, one of the most ridiculous ideas held by human beings is that they could possibly kill the Son of God or destroy his teachings. Oh yes, they did kill my body 2,000 years ago. Oh yes, they have removed my original teachings from the written account of my life. Yet even the fragmented accounts found in the Bible contain elements of my true teachings and of the true, timeless teachings of God. The Bible states that God has written his law in your inward parts. I too have written my true teachings in the inward parts of your being, and what I am presenting in this book is simply a reminder of what you already know deep within yourself. I am the open door, which no human can shut. I am the voice of truth that will not forever be silenced or denied. My truth, my true teaching has been present in the collective consciousness of humankind for more than 2,000 years. Regardless of the outer appearances, the living truth that I brought to this planet has been working behind the scenes. It has been working its way through the many layers of consciousness, and it is now ready to burst forth on the screen of humankind's conscious awareness. The power of this world think that they have somehow thwarted my purpose for coming to this planet. In reality, they have simply delayed the widespread acceptance of my true teachings, and they have done so on very temporary basis. If you are reading this, you belong to a group of people who have the true teachings of Jesus Christ written in their beings. You need only bring those teachings into your outer memory and awareness. This book is nothing but a reminder. This book can tell you nothing which you do not already know at some level of your being. Otherwise, you would not be able to grasp or accept it. Simply recognize and accept the fact that you have the ability, an inherent God-given ability as old as your life stream, to know truth. You do not need an outer authority figure or organization to define truth for you. My truth is a living truth that cannot be confined to any doctrine or belief system found on this planet. My truth is larger than life, at least larger than the form of life known by most human beings in their present state of consciousness. Allow yourself to recognize that you have the ability to know the truth inside your heart. Allow yourself to recognize and accept that the true teaching of Jesus Christ are written in your being. Make a decision that you will strive to bring that truth into your outer awareness. As you begin to see that forgotten truth, accept it and have the courage to act upon it. I am Jesus Christ. I desire to see you rise above the limitations you have come to accept. I desire to see you free from mortality and suffering. I desire to see you accept your true identity as an unlimited spiritual being who can easily create God's perfection as you can create the human imperfection that you currently experience. Allow me to take you on a journey from your present level of consciousness to a full recognition of your true identity. I promise you that it will be the journey of a lifetime.